Hey, this is Causing Mike here from Peach Vitamins. Today, we'll be talking about probiotics. A lot of people ask about probiotics. It's in the market, and doctors are recommending now. So I want one of my friends who's been a great friend, and basically my since 20 years. I've known him for 20 years, and he's been doing this much longer than me in the supplement realm and supplements. As a matter of fact, he works for one of these companies, Jarrow Formulas. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. So his name is Thomas. He's been a great friend, great sense of humor, and a good Indian accent, I guess better than mine. So I want to bring him along today. So just kind of give you insights on, the different questions that people have with probiotics, how to take them, when to take them, what are the differences, and what do these numbers really mean, 85 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion, because there are a lot of confusion out there. And I want him to bring his expertise here to kind of give us some insights. I'm just waiting on him to come on, so hopefully let's see in the next few seconds. Probiotics generally been used for somebody who's taken antibiotics, of course, and these are the probiotics that are in our intestinal system. We have in our mouth also the saliva, and of course for the females is the vaginal areas too. So those are the three different places where we have these microbes or microorganisms that you can call. They are helpful in absorption. Once the food is digested, once the nutrients are digested in our stomach, more in the intestinal, where they're helping nutrients get absorbed and be taken into the system. And if our bad bacteria or the good bacteria or the bad bacteria is higher than the good, that's where we fall sick. We do have good and bad, and I guess there are thousands of them, as Thomas will tell us soon. But so I'm just waiting for Thomas to kind of join in, and once we get him on here, we'll be, giving you more insights on the probiotics. There are also prebiotics, but I just want to make sure what's the difference. We'll talk that some other time, but at this point, the probiotics are pro. So this is where we want. Yeah, Thomas on here. Hey Thomas, hi, how are you? Can you hear us? We have a visitor here too who's joined in. As a matter of fact, that's my son, Tushar. So Thomas, we're waiting for you to go live. Come on. So until he comes on, it's hard to know for us to understand if we are really digesting, if we're really taking, when we take these probiotics, are they getting into our bloodstream, or are they getting attached to our villi, because that's where they are, in the intestinal villi. And it's very hard to know. And also we need to find out, or we should kind of figure out which foods, how can we get these probiotics in our daily diet. I mean, before probiotics were discovered, what was going on then? Of course, there are some foods that can. All right, let's go live with Thomas. I guess, Thomas, you have to click go live. Here you go.
Whoa.
All right, welcome, Thomas.
I feel like a boomer trying to set this thing up.
So I guess you just use this first. And I was just introducing you. I know you have been in this industry for maybe 30 years or so, and I've known you for 20 years. So a good friend, and of course.
So I don't see how that's possible, but.
What? What do you mean?
I'm only 26 years old, so I don't.
Yeah.
Math.
We can make out with your beard right there. You're 26 years old.
Looks kind of gray.
And I told him, well, you know what? He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a better accent than me, in the Indian accent, I guess. You can put that on.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And he gets a bit scientific with his work because he's very passionate about his work. So I want to make sure we don't get too intimate with this kind of stuff. Just get a basic ideas on probiotics. And I've learned a lot of this from you initially, of course. So, what are the main things? I mean, why are we taking probiotics? Just a quick thing here. Why do we take probiotics?
Well, the number of intestinal bacterial cells in your gut, I used to know the numbers, but they far outnumber the number of actual cells in your own body. So the makeup of those, you want to be favorable as opposed to bad or even pathogenic. I would state that the intestinal microbiology is still kind of a science in its infancy. I think they're really just kind of hitting the tip of the iceberg right now. And you've probably noticed in the last, 6 or 8 years, more and more kind of highly specific bacteria are coming out with more and more, lots of specific claims. I meet that with some enthusiasm and some reticence because more and more you get one bacteria with a very, very specific claim, and it's kind of like focusing on the little plant next to the tree in the forest. So you miss the forest for the micro minutia maybe. But like our Femdophilus, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
That's what I have right here, yeah.
There you go. It's got great studies for yeast and bacterial vaginosis, urinary tract infection in women. So it's sort of pigeonholed as a feminine probiotic, which is its biggest attribute, but there's also studies on it for inflammation in heart attack victims. So you can kind of see that if a study gets done, a product is going to get marketed based on that, and there's almost always going to be much more associated with it. Mm-hmm. So again, in the old days, they were selling, I think it was Mechnikov, some of the Bulgarian researchers were just like, probiotics. Here are these bacteria. The people in the Caucasus Mountains ate yogurt and lived to be 105 years old.
So these are basically different strains, different types of bacteria, which are, I guess, what are the different areas in the body that we'll find? I guess the mouth, the saliva.
You've seen us. We have oral probiotics. Of course, most of them are intestinal, but in that you've obviously got, top to bottom, small intestine down to colon, and they all will inhabit different areas. The newest women's probiotic we have is our vaginal strain, and we've also just come out with this new antifungal women's product, which is probiotic yeast. Also,
so basically suppressing like the yeast or the bad bacteria.
Sorry, my desk was sinking.
And so what about what are these big numbers that we see here? 5 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion. I mean, why such a big variety of these numbers? It doesn't really matter that higher you go, the stronger it gets or something?
That's the, some companies will call that the CFU, colony forming units. We just refer to it as a bacterial count. That's the minimum number of bacterial cells in the product. And all of our products, you'll see it. This one says 5. Ours are all done number at expiration. And it's kind of an important issue with companies to know, is the number they're claiming at time of manufacture, or is it at time of expiration? This product is typically 4 times label claim. So it starts out at 20 billion to claim a minimum of 5 at expiration. So technically, this product is 5 to 20. And the fresher it is, the closer to 20.
No, but what about the other brands where they're saying this is 5 billion? No, you should take 20 billion or you should take 80 billion. I mean, is there a difference? Should we take the more the better, or what is that number? Why are they changing these numbers?
I think as a company, we would argue in the 80s and 90s, we were the lead probiotic company. We were kind of the #1 innovator. And in the last 20 years, you've seen all these companies come along. Many of them are fine companies, But we would argue they've taken a marketing approach over a microbiological scientific approach.
Yeah.
It's all about more is better. More and more strains. Some of them are claiming 30 to 40 strains. Well, one of the things that we do, we test each strain has to be compatible with the other strains in the mix. So we look at a strain with 38 strains. We're like, did you test this one against the 37 other ones? And typically they're not going to do that. But also one of the things they're doing is one company uses a kefir culture, which is, I believe, 35, it's about 30 something organisms. And for kefir, that's great. Kefir is a drink fermentation product. Fermentation bacteria are not intestinal bacteria. They have benefits. They produce good byproducts. They're helpful, but they're not really intestinal bacteria or probiotics. But so they'll use this kefir culture, which is 30 strains, and then they put like 4 real documented probiotic strains, and it makes up typically like 90% of the product. So basically,
So what about
it's a label game.
Yeah. And so what about the sources of food? Like you said, kefir. What other sources we can naturally get these probiotics? I mean, I'm sure we are getting it before these all products came out.
That gets into some technical stuff because a lot of everybody wants to look at sauerkraut and fermented foods. Again, fermentation, food bacteria, you've got to look at the environment. Your intestinal tract is an anaerobic 98.6 roughly degree environment, wet and dark. Back when the soil-based organisms were making it big, I talked to one of the microbiologists at our manufacturer, and he said, outside you've got an aerobic anywhere from 10 to 90 degree environment, dirt. He said, imagine a bacteria that's going to live in that environment is not technically one that's going to thrive in your gut. It's a totally different ecosystem. Now, again, there are probably some finer points of microbiology that we're not really getting to. But again, we've seen more and more simplified marketing being applied to probiotics where it's really a very technical thing. And and to get back to the numbers would be one of the most important things, I think. Typically, when you look at the studies, they deal with 1 to 3 billion. And so we would say that's a very fresh product. So
you're talking about yogurt, had a can of yogurt or something.
Well, yeah, but they're basically they're not getting a product that's been manufactured, stuck in a warehouse, put on a truck, sent to a store, sat around. So basically, you want something that's going to guarantee an ingestion, hopefully 3 billion or so.
Correct.
All the studies typically use 1 to 3 billion. Our mood probiotic, the studies on that, they said there were 3 billion. They said over 3 billion, we saw no additional benefits. Reiterate that. No additional benefits. So I always tell people imagine you've got a 5-gallon bucket and your gut is filled with so many bacteria. You've got a carrying capacity. So your bucket is 60% full. So somebody sells you a 20-gallon bucket to fill up your 60% full 5-gallon bucket. You're paying for all of this extra that's pretty much just going to go to waste.
So what about I had always had this concern where if you take these probiotics in the capsule form or the powder form, wouldn't your stomach acid kind of kill that before it gets in the intestines? How are they protected? How do we know that they're really getting into that intestinal flora and they're lining into the intestinal walls?
I'm glad you asked that. On here, you see we have where do we put our EnteroGuard? This one has been, when this came out, we were looking for shelf stability because PB8 was one of the leading sellers at that time, and we had some problems with that product. We took them to court over those problems. But but we wanted it either shelf stable or enteric coated. And I told Jaro at the time, do shelf stable or enteric coated and shelf stable. And I will take full credit for this being both. I doubt I really had much to do with it.
So basically, the quotation on in the capsule is preventing the stomach acid from breaking it down.
Matter of fact, there's a lot of confusion about when to take them. And you look at a product and you'll say, take on an empty stomach. That's not really what you want to do.
Yeah, that was my next question was, what is the best time?
If it's not enteric coated, you want to take it 1 to 3 hours after eating. When there is chyme, which is your food mass, there is something in your stomach because the bacteria needs something to feed on, but it's been in there for a while, so the pH is going back up because the acid's job is to kill bacteria. So you want to kind of trick the system. So if you wait until your food is emptying, that's when you can take it. But with EPS, the enteric coating, excuse me, it's actually best to take it while you're eating, which to me, it just works better because you don't have to think about it later. You don't forget. It's got food to feed it there. And when this first came out, we had an advertisement, which one of my retailers got very upset with because it said, delivers up to 200 times more bacteria than a conventional probiotic capsule. And my retailer said, this is one of those up to claims. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. So I talked to the lead microbiologist at Roselle Institute, the manufacturer, and he said that this was an independent test done, I believe it was done in Belgium. Like Roselle paid an independent lab to do it. They measured an EPS capsule and an identical unenteric coated capsule. They floated in a stomach simulating chamber and for time, acidity, and then they measure what survives. And literally in the studies, 200 times the probiotic were surviving in the EPS capsule. And he even said that in a real stomach environment probably would even be better. But 200 should be more than enough.
So definitely, I mean, taking somebody was on a bout of antibiotics, of course they should be taking a probiotic. Now, sometimes we recommend them taking the probiotic while they're on an antibiotic. I mean, would you say that would be fine?
I don't know thus far that I've seen any good studies debating that or demonstrating that. I personally, if I were taking an antibiotic in the morning, I would probably take a probiotic at bedtime.
Yeah.
But one of the things that people do is they use the Saccharomyces boulardii.
Yeah.
Which that's a probiotic yeast. And it's very strange because most yeasts ferment to alcohol, but Saccharomyces actually, or this boulardii ferments to lactic acid, like many of the probiotics. And it's very protective against yeast, which can often flare up under antibiotics because it is an antifungal yeast. It also works.
So basically, any kind of yeast infections and stuff. I mean, for females also, or any kind of symptoms that you're having, because you have a yeast infection, the Saccharomyces boulardii would be the right particular strain.
It's been very beneficial for a lot of people.
So I think we'll do that. We'll do that in our next talk again, when we go and scrutinize each and every kind of strain and kind of see. But I think this was good. Anything else you want to add, just in general, the probiotics?
Oh gosh, I could go on for hours.
Yes. So I do appreciate the time, and we'll get back to you, I guess, in the next couple of weeks. We'll pick up another topic and pick your brain again.
Please put my studio to use.
I can see your whole background back there.
Oh my God!
But you need to get a phone stand so you're not shaking that much.
Oh, am I shaking too much?
Yes, you are shaking.
Well, this is my premiere episode, so live and learn.
All right, so I'm going to be signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay in touch. Don't forget Jaro.
Yep. So this is Kazi Mike, and you got some first-hand knowledge from Thomas Pickett. He's been in this for at least 40, 30 years, been doing the probiotics and stuff. And we'll reach out to him again in the next few episodes kind of look through again. So probiotics in general, of course, very essential. This should be your staple, I think, next to the multivitamin or next to good fats. And this is what I usually give someone who's not taking anything, is to have a good multivitamin, good fatty acids, and a good probiotic, because that's where it's helping with the absorption. I mean, you can eat all the good food and all the vitamins, but if it's not being absorbed in your intestinal tract, then definitely they're not worth it, and they're just going right through. So until next time, this is Carving Mike, and I hope you tune in. We'll see you next week on Tuesday again, where we pick another topic. Thank you.